Awesome. Okay, well, welcome everyone. My name is Radhika. I am a career coach. I specialize in climate career coaching. And I am super excited to give this guest talk today. I do this actually for every single cohort that comes through. Today's talk is a conversation on navigating your climate career transition. I have a lot of tips and tricks to share, best practices, and all that stuff, but would really love to open it up to hear kind of what's top of mind for everyone today. And really can open it up to actually just have a conversation about these things, or can go through actual case studies of kind of job seekers that have coached that have navigated the job transition and things like that. So really happy to share whatever and anything that is relevant to you all today. So first, before we jump into all of that, I wanted to actually start by doing a quick storytelling exercise. I'll do a little bit of my intro before that as well. And then after that, I will just pose an open question to everyone here today to say, what are you interested in learning about? What are your questions? And then I'll go into tips and tricks. And then towards the end, I will go over a little bit of what we have planned in terms of career support for you all after you graduate from LFA. So really quickly, a little bit about myself. My name is Radhika. My pronouns are she, her. I actually was exactly where you all were about a year ago. So I took the Terra LFA program. I was in the Salamanders cohort. So that was from January to April of last year. And after that, I kind of navigated exactly what you all are going to do moving forward. I was like, okay, time to dedicate my career to climate. And I did the whole thing. I did the climate job search. I had 15 interviews in 2 months. Like, it was a wild ride. And through all of that, I actually learned that what I really wanted was to work for myself and was to harness my own skills and work for a lot of different types of organizations and kind of have a little bit more flexibility in my life. So through that, I decided, through all those learning experiences of interviewing, I decided to launch my own business. And I did that in July of last year. And I started my own business as a climate career coach and kind of organizational consultant. And with that, Tara asked me to come back as an instructor. So I came back in August last year to teach the whale sharks cohort. And since then, I've been working with Tara to develop this kind of new course that specifically teaches people how to navigate the climate career and job search, really. Prior to that, my entire career has been in technology. I worked mostly with the US government and nonprofits on using tech for good, whether that was open data, open innovation. I also did a lot of work as a user experience designer, front-end developer. And I say all this because I consider myself a serial career changer. I've worn so many different hats. I've had a lot of different roles in a variety of different organizations. And so with that, through that career, I was mentoring and coaching a lot of people informally, which is how I found myself in coaching kind of now. Through that also, I decided to take a gap year after the pandemic to kind of resituate and kind of reconfigure my life. So a lot of what you'll hear me talk a lot about today is the job search actually comes, in order to navigate a successful job search, actually comes from within you. You have to be able to identify, what do I want? What am I looking for? And what are the non-negotiables that I want to approach before I even start that job search? So that's a really big component of kind of what I teach and what I coach on as well. I'm based in Richmond, Virginia. I am on Slack. So if you all have any questions, I'm in the same Terra Slack as you all. So please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions or follow-ups after this. Some fun facts: I'm a lifelong vegetarian and I'm left-handed. So shout out to all our lefties here. Great. So with that, let me actually go ahead and put everyone into kind of the mindset of the job seeker. As you all will navigate your job search moving forward, the thing that you're going to have to do over and over again is tell your story, whether that is in an informational interview or whether that is actually in the interview for the job you're interested in. You are going to have to get really good at telling your story. And for those of you here that are like, but wait, I'm a generalist, or I have a bunch of jobs that I'm interested in. How do I do this? Don't worry. This is really just a practice exercise. This is kind of to warm everyone up. And for those generalists, for those interested in lots of different roles, you can create this story that still encompasses all of those different skills that you have. So I'm going to put everyone into breakout rooms for about 10 minutes, and there will be around 2 to 3 people in each room. And I'd like to ask everyone here to introduce yourself using the following framework. What do I do? What do I want to do? Who do I help? And what's a climate topic or a few topics I'm passionate about? Now, when I say who I want to help, that can be an organization, it can be a group of people, it can be the environment, it can be really whatever comes to mind for you. But the purpose of saying who I want to help is actually to help the people that you're talking to understand how to advocate for you. When you say something around what I want to do and who I want to help, that's actually something that will stick in people's minds that can then help them turn into advocates for you. So an example of how to do this, again, all of this can be done in 2 to 3 sentences, super short. An example of this is, I work in finance as an accountant, and I want to pivot into climate to work on circular economy solutions. I want to help companies trying to pivot their supply chain management to be more circular. And I also enjoy teaching people how to adopt circular consumption practices in their daily lives. In this example, someone has touched on their professional background, their personal interest in climate, and who they want to help in between. So I'll give everyone 2 minutes right now to actually look at this framework and jot down your answers. And then I'll go ahead and open up breakout rooms so you can practice telling your story. I see a few new people have joined. For those that just joined, take a look at the slide that I'm sharing right now. You have 2 minutes to put together your introduction, and then I will put everyone into breakout rooms to practice telling your story. Okay, welcome back, everyone. I'm glad to see that everyone stayed in the rooms until the end. I hope that means that everyone got through their introductions. But tell me, how did that go? How did people think that exercise went? Was it a breeze for you? Do you think you could use some work, or was that also really hard for you? I'm curious. You feel free to type in the chat or unmute. Pitch
Awesome.
some polishing.
I mean, I definitely thought that your structure made it really easy to follow, and then the story just kind of came together.
Nice.
So I appreciate that structure.
Yeah, totally.
I appreciate the structure also. One thing that I have struggled with and did on this call, or in my room just now, is balancing the need to sort of be really specific to make it easier for the person you're speaking with to help you find what you want, with my true interest and desire to work in a lot of different potential areas within climate.
Yeah.
I'm curious if you have any thoughts for us on that.
Yeah. Of if you're interested in a few different sectors, kind of how to talk on that. Yeah, totally. To answer that question, it's almost it's situational, right? Depends on the conversation that you're having, who you're talking to, and even what the context is. So definitely know that this framework, this can be customized for every single conversation you have. If it's a networking call and you're talking to someone in one specific sector, you can customize it and tailor it for that. What I will say, the cool thing with this talk is that I actually have been teaching this course, this careers course for the last 5 months now. So this class, I have like all these stories to tell you of how other people did it. And one thing that reminds me of is I had one person from, I think maybe the zebras cohort also just graduated. And she was like, yeah, I'm talking to someone that is a kind of a distant connection. Like I'm not super, they're not a really strong connection, but I'm reaching out to them. And she had a call, set up. And she also was like, I'm having this conversation, but they're not in the climate sector that I want to work in. Well, let me just have the conversation anyways. She had it and she kind of used this framework. And in that conversation, she talked about the various sectors that she was interested in. And the person that she was talking to, even though they weren't in that sector, they were like, oh, I know 2 people that work in that field. And she actually got warm introductions to those people. So I say that mainly to share that this framework is kind of the baseline that you can build off of, and you can totally expand it to say, you know what, I want to help 3 different types of people, or I'm interested in 3 different types of climate sectors. And you can expand on that, but try to almost hone in, like based on the person you're talking to, based on their background, like customize it based on that. It's kind of like knowing your audience, right? And I think that can really help you get the most use out of those conversations you're having. Yeah. Anyone else have a quick reflection? Was that really hard for anyone? I'm curious. And if it was, can you share why?
Hey, Radhika, this is Parish. Hi.
Hi.
Hi. Are you allowed to speak, or are we supposed to chat? What is it?
Go
I just
ahead
want
and
to be
speak.
mindful of time. No, so I think the framework is good. It structures the initial pitch, except for the third part, the area that you're passionate about, because that 3 and 4, if there is a difference in 4, then 3 kind of becomes redundant or obsolete. So that's my kind of what would you say, take on it. But it's a good framework. That's number 1. Number 2, when you're talking about working with multiple people, right, I want to understand from your perspective, how can someone individually, the way you're trying to do it, let's say you are trying to be a career coach in climate space. If I would want to be an enterprise sales guy who's selling different climate products in a given market, how can I do that? I'm trying to do that, but I haven't had any success so far. Uh, Let alone converting, partners, getting conversations or getting them interested. It's like more of a, we want an employee on board kind of, uh, thought process that comes across.
Perfect. Well, Barish, since you brought this question, I think this is a great moment for live coaching. So tell me, what have you tried so far?
Super. So I shortlisted a few companies. I'll give you a background within 30 seconds. My 10 years of experience has been into sales and consulting. Sales more on the integrated solutions part, which includes an element of SaaS, and selling primarily in the India and bit of Southeast Asia market. The consulting bit has been early days as an analyst at EY. Great, one of the greatest learning curve that I ever had till date. So after I left my job, I took a career break to restore my ancestral home. Did that all by myself, and I've set up my own company. So rather than joining anyone as an employee, the value prop of the company that I've set up is a partnership firm, where we kind of help companies in the US and EU expand in the India region, or probably launch in India. So I become the co-seller or GTM partner rather than an employee. So we do a exclusive deal saying that if there is a company in sector A vis-a-vis sector B, excuse the background noise, we do exclusivity deal saying that we are not going to work with any of the competitors till the time we are on contracts. That's a value prop. But when you go and pitch something like this, there are 2 things that I have that come to me as a feedback. A, we are not interested at this point in time because India is not on the radar or not on our mind right now. B, even if we are looking for full-time employees to join us. right? Instead of, let's say, a so-called partner. And this is not just in climate tech space, but even in my sector I've worked in. So those are the things that I'm dealing with. Happy to kind of learn more from you. How do you navigate this? On this
Yeah,
call, off this
absolutely.
call. Happy to get up.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. And also, like, I'm seeing a lot of people nodding here. Like, I also think that a lot of people here are probably in a similar boat of maybe I don't want a full-time job. Maybe I want to consult. So I hope that this is also kind of relevant to other folks here. The reason why I asked kind of, and Barish, from that, I'm hearing the challenges that you're coming across, but to get more specific with what you've done, who are you targeting for these conversations? And you can keep it broad. You don't have to like name any companies or anything like that, but
Absolutely.
what, and
I'll give
also
you a
what
few
is your
pointers.
strategy for approaching those conversations?
So top things, I mean, one of the cold and tried and tested method, old school, cold email. And the second one, which is actually well thought of, not a template. And the second one is, the third one is, so that's in that order. And then profiles that I'm talking or reaching out to is founders, primarily founders, co-founders, VP of sales, chief business officers, or partnership managers, right?
Okay.
The kind of companies that I'm going after, the stage of the company is anywhere between pre-seed to, let's say, up to Series B, not even Series B, because Series B is mature, pre-seed to, let's say, Series A or Series A plus. Geographies, US and EU. India, I kind of, touched upon yet, but broadly giving a sense of, who is it that I'm targeting, and the value prop is, if not a partner or a contract, would you be open to fractional hiring?
Yeah. Yeah,
Bold no
absolutely.
is the answer. Yeah.
Yeah. So one thing that I would definitely recommend is that, so in the kind of some of the resources that I have for you all, there's a little bit of an exercise that you individually can do to understand who are your warm or, strong connections and weak connections. Now, strong and weak, there's no hierarchy there. There's like one actually literally is not better than the other, but they each offer you different things. So it sounds like through cold emailing, it sounds like that maybe hasn't been that successful, or maybe it leads to a conversation, but it doesn't lead to a client. So the key thing here with understanding your strong and weak ties is that, just by definition, your strong ties are the people that you have a strong connection with. Maybe you've worked with them in the past. Maybe they've mentored you in the past. These are people that you already know very well. And then your weak ties are people that are have been maybe a little tangential in your journey. Maybe you interacted with them just a few times, or it's a friend of a friend or something like that. Studies have actually shown that your weak ties can lead to more outcomes in your job search than strong ties. So that's truly why I mean, there's no hierarchy here. Both of these groups of people can actually be highly influential in your job search. So, Barish, for what you just mentioned, I would actually highly recommend that you, instead of doing cold outreach, which might actually be taking you a lot of time as well with finding the people, sending the messages, I would highly recommend that you approach this from the angle of, I need to build relationships with people and pursue the conversations from that angle. When you send an outreach email and you say, hey, I'm looking for this, the chances of people responding, and when you say, hey, I'm looking for this, do you have a job open? I'm sure that's maybe not how you're wording it, but if you approach it from that angle, it's kind of immediately, especially in the climate space where people, a lot of the jobs that are kind of being circulated, warm and like networking, warm introductions is the name of the game. It's kind of how a lot of people are getting in. Networking, I can tell you, and also if you don't want to listen to me, I have 15 people that can tell you these stories, more than that, honestly. So really, I would recommend actually create a list of who are your strong ties and who are your weak ties. Understand like, where are they situated? If they work in the climate space, who do they know? And I would recommend actually approaching those people for a conversation to say, hey, I just finished LFA. I'm interested in doing this. This is kind of what this is the market that I would like to serve. do you have any ideas? And really approach it from the angle of learning. And that actually can get you a lot further than coming in and just pitching your business. I say this, and I understand that a lot of you are up against a time crunch. You've got bills to pay. I totally get it, but also approaching it this way, it might take a little bit longer, but it also might actually not. It might actually get you where you need to go a little bit faster, because you're changing your pitch. That's really all you're doing here. Just the same way that we ran this storytelling exercise, you are changing your pitch. Instead of saying, hey, I'm looking for a job, can you hire me? You're saying, hey, I'd like to learn. Hey, I'm curious. And leading with curiosity can get you a lot further. And also,
Radhika,
yeah,
sorry,
go ahead.
Please go ahead.
Well, yeah. So I think I'd love to move on to make sure that we can get to other people's questions. Parish, if you want to schedule a one-on-one with me, you can. But yeah, so related to this, does anyone else have any other questions? Otherwise, I can jump into the slides.
I have a quick follow-up question if no one is going for it.
Go ahead.
So when you talk about relationship, right? I mean, when you're talking to founders, or you're talking about, co-founders or the C-suite, even to build relationship, if you open up a email saying that, I want to build a relationship, or, are you open to conversation? Typically, the answer has been no response, right?
But that's what I mean by approaching your warm connections. Who do you know that knows that person? You've got to go through them, or you've got to try it. And so this is a key thing too, is that when I get this resistance of like, no, people aren't talking to me, I really, really want to encourage you to say, who have you looked at in your network that can offer you that warm introduction? And a big hint is that you might actually know someone in the Terra network. Maybe it could be someone that works at Terra, or any of the fellows right here in this room, or that were in your Axolotls cohort. My big suggestion here is don't do the cold outreach. Actually map out on LinkedIn who knows who, and try to approach it that way. And try it. Like, you can't say that it doesn't work if you haven't tried it. So my recommendation to you is absolutely try this method. And if it doesn't work, let's talk. But I encourage you to see what works.
Thanks.
Definitely. Yeah. And Isaac, thank you for chiming in here. Isaac saying that I've gotten total strangers to agree to meet with me and just discuss each other's journeys. It's absolutely, it's going to work. And if you haven't tried it, if you're skeptical, I'm telling you right now, just try it. Go ahead, Isaac.
Well, I mean, I was trying to say that I have been able to achieve that. And it's amazing that some people are very open to it, but it's almost like the cold PR pitching that, like, if you're getting 1 out of every 20 to 30 to respond and show interest, it's like a successful rate. And I've resorted to doing that because I don't know, I've only been back in the US for about like 2 years, and I've reached out to old contacts, but I don't have many. So it's just been like lots of knocking on doors. But I feel like a lot of people immediately know, though, that, okay, I have it on my profile pic now that I'm looking for work. So it's, I mean, also just kind of being realistic that people are busy, and if they don't know you, jumping on a call to just kind of discuss their backgrounds. So people like talking about themselves. Just feel like, don't expect like a large percentage to necessarily be open to that. It's a numbers game. I try to find things from their background and be like, oh, why did you transition from this company to that? Or I'd love to learn about the work you did there. Or I spend a little more time kind of stalking, learning about what they've done. It's the follow-up that I might find a little more challenging. I'll try to like share things that are relevant, just kind of remember what they're interested in, and occasionally like send them a message here and there and try to keep the conversation going. But I found that that's even more challenging sometimes than the initial conversation, which they will do because they want to help and the attitude is very friendly, but keeping that going, I feel like, is even more challenging.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing. And this really brings up, this kind of is a perfect segue into the next kind of piece of this, is in your climate job search, and really any life transition. This is really, it goes a little bit broader than the job search. During any life transition, it's super important to have the mindset and keep in mind what you can and cannot control. And this is called the spheres of control or locus of control. This is a tactic used in cognitive behavioral psychology to help people move past blockers. And I encourage everyone here to adopt this mindset, not only now, but into your job search and into really any life transition. In any situation, there are always many things that you can control and many things that are within your influence. And in the same way, there are a variety of factors that are completely outside of your control. For any life transition, it's super important to hone in on those things that are within your control and influence, because it will give you agency. And it will also give you the resilience that you need to continue moving forward. I'm not going to sugarcoat this for anyone. Any job search is hard. It's always hard. Like anyone that's transitioned careers, Isaac, you messaged me, like anytime you've jumped, like it's probably been hard. It doesn't matter whether it's to another industry or to another role. It's always something that's difficult. But that being said, in any job search, there's always so many things that are within your control. And what I'm going to talk about shortly, and what we've even talked about right now, networking with people, that's within your control. Expanding your network and polishing up your LinkedIn, that's within your control. Putting together your best story, your best resume, how you tell that story and who you're sharing that with, that's within your control. Now, obviously, applying to jobs, getting yourself out there, that's definitely within your control. Now, what's within your influence is an interesting factor, because a lot of you here, what we've talked about so far is, hey, you know what? I'm not getting responses. I've tried this, I've tried that. Your job search is also an amazing place to be experimental. If you are trying something and it's not working, try something else. If you have sent one message to 50 people and no one responded, tweak the message, change the way that you are sending it out. There are so many factors that you can experiment with in your job search that is within your influence. Additionally, this was my personal experience. Of all those interviews I did, I had one employer ghost me. And it was like, are you kidding me? I've interviewed this many times. I also won't lie and say that the job search can be quite emotional, but a key thing that's going to help you kind of work through those emotions too is recognizing what's within your control and influence. And so for that employer that ghosted me, I think I let a month go by, and I was like, I just kept thinking, no, they'll reach out. And they didn't. And so then I honestly, out of anger, I was like, I'm just going to follow up with them one more time. It came from a place of anger. Now, the message I sent, of course, was, hey, I'm still interested. Is this position open? I didn't let that anger come across in that message. And they got back to me. I didn't get the position, but they did actually sit down and have a conversation with me about what I could improve. Now, that is extremely valuable. It was valuable to me, and it helped me kind of move forward. So that's truly what I mean. These are a few examples, but you all can really paint a picture of what's within my control and influence. And maybe some of you are also at the beginning of your job search too, especially like transitioning into the climate space. I totally understand that there's a lot of like things that are probably up in the air and you're wondering how to do things. But I encourage you to adopt this mindset of, I know what's within my control and influence, and I'll focus on that. And I have a bullet down here that says this is a marathon. And what I mean by that is this is a marathon, not a sprint. You've got to be able to keep yourself going. You've got to be able to keep going through any rejections that you get. And I always say in coaching too, it's not rejection, it is redirection. Not getting one opportunity opens you up to another one. And so focusing on what you can control and what actions you can take are going to help move you forward through your job search. So really quickly, some very practical steps to your job search. I encourage everyone to adopt these five quick steps. And a lot of this actually starts with going in first, inwards, instead of exploding out and saying, okay, who am I going to talk to? How do I get there? What jobs are available? Actually, you have to start by identifying what you want first. And that goes into your non-negotiables. You then can take that and go into researching, okay, now what aligns with what I'm looking for? What aligns with the goal or the vision that I've put for myself? And then you can identify and research jobs, organization, climate topics. And then you can tailor your application materials, make that really strong resume, network with that in mind. By the time you get to networking, you have a much clearer vision of what you are networking for. And then applying to jobs actually comes at the end. So one thing that I can share with everyone here is, Rafi, I saw your hand go up. I'll call on you in just a second. I have this worksheet for everyone here. And in this climate course that I've talked a little bit about, we have a variety of resources, worksheets, exercises that will take you through all of this. So definitely, if you're wondering, how am I going to do this? I've got a bunch of things for you. This worksheet I can share with everyone right now. I'll post it in Slack afterwards. Maybe I can even put it in the chat right now. This is a worksheet that I've created for everyone that I highly recommend people look at. And it helps you identify your non-negotiables. And what I mean by non-negotiables is really the why and what you're looking for. Is it remote, hybrid, or in-person work? Is it a specific salary? Are there benefits you're looking for? Is it the realm of climate work? There's all these things you have to identify in order to know what you're looking for. So there are all these questions in here around your values, why it's important to you, and then prioritizing them as well. So let me go ahead and put it in the chat so you have it. Yeah, highly recommend. Highly recommend looking at that, just looking at the chat. If anyone wants to schedule a one-on-one with me, you absolutely can. You can reach out to me on Slack. And I can also, just reach out to me in Slack and we can schedule that. Do you ever find that there's always something new that can be nitpicked? Isaac, what do you mean by that?
When you said you would ask recruiters or hiring managers to give you feedback on why you weren't selected. Sorry. I'm almost like they can find reasons to discard people that are out of your control. Potentially there's always something more that you can perfect. And it's like so many of these positions, I feel like I often wonder how many they already know who they're going to give it to. There's a referral, but they have to go through the motions of just interviewing, accepting applications. They like almost make up reasons why they might not select somebody. And if you have so many qualified candidates applying, then it might just be like, well, this person speaks 3 languages, so we'll just take them.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, you can also take that feedback and say, okay, can I actually do something about this or not? And that's another thing too, that not all employers will give you feedback. If they do, you're almost lucky because a lot of them don't even offer that. So it's like really unfortunate, especially if you hear that feedback and you're like, well, that's not something I can change. I think like a few years ago, I got feedback that one company was like, and I did like an assessment for them and I submitted it and they were like, yeah, we want someone that can actually implement the ideas that you put down. And I was like, why would I give you ideas if I couldn't implement them? Like, it's like nonsensical. And that's just kind of, it happens and you've just got to keep pushing forward. You've got to keep just moving forward. It's truly like, if you have any goal in life, you're always going to come up against blockers. You're always going to come up against naysayers. And you have to believe in yourself and you have to keep pushing forward. Also, I will just say my coaching style is very holistic. I'm going to tell you, I believe in the energy of the universe because I do. Now, obviously, like different people need different coaching styles, but that's definitely a lot of kind of how I operate in addition to being very strategic. So just giving everyone that info. Additionally, for your job search, researching and reflecting on your non-negotiables is going to be the next step. And a lot of you, as you come out of LFA, a lot of you have questions like, we learned so much. I don't know what climate sector I want to work on. And so I definitely encourage you to identify at least 3. There's so many things that you could do, but think about at least 3 that you can focus in on and understand. Even think back to your LFA experience. What were the experiences that jumped out at me? What were the topics that I got so excited about that I went down a rabbit hole? Let that again, that inner guidance speak to you as you reflect on what you want to do moving forward. After that, you can also understand, what are the roles that are available in each of these sectors. And there's so many job boards to help you with this. Now, the job boards might, they're going to show you a lot, and you don't have to apply to every single job you see. But really, the job boards are going to help you get a better landscape and understand the landscape of opportunities. And then the last question I hear a lot of people asking, how do I know if this climate organization is doing any good? How do I know if they're making an impact? You can really use the tools that LFA gave you to assess, is this greenwashing? Is this, something else insidious at play? Or you can also look at Project Drawdown's analysis. They have a really great layout of how to analyze the impact that's being made. Of course, tailoring your application materials is really important. And I always like to say that there's 4 components to this. Your resume, cover letter, your LinkedIn is super important, and then how you tell your story, which is what we practice at the beginning. For your resume and cover letter, I have a bunch of templates that I can share with people. Eric Lee is another climate career coach who actually was in my same LFA cohort with me too. Eric teaches a resume workshop. Maybe some of you have already gone to it, but he has a resume template and a cover letter template that have been proven to be highly effective in getting people interviews. I've had people that I've coached through Tara that have used his templates that have landed interviews. So, you have a template right here. You also can tailor, you must remember to tailor your materials to the jobs you're applying for. Do not create one resume and mass send it out. You are not going to get feedback. You are not going to get interviews for that. So definitely make sure that you're tailoring the content. And I've written out here too, if you are a generalist, be sure to tailor your materials. You can still be a generalist on your resume, but make sure you're tailoring it to the different roles you're applying for. Make sure you're including keywords from the job description and highly relevant climate volunteer experience, or even just education like Tara. You should absolutely put LFA on your resume. And your bullets should include what you did, how you did it, and what the outcome was. And if you can include data on that too, that would be super helpful. Erica, go ahead.
So if that makes sense that you tailor all the materials to, let's say you're looking at 3 different sectors to focus in on, how do you deal with that on LinkedIn, where you really only have one shot and a lot of their, where you have to pick an industry and things like that, they don't have sustainability or climate as an industry to choose.
Yeah.
What's your advice there?
Such a good question. I get this one a lot. Let's just go over to LinkedIn right now. I'll pull up an example of how at least one person that I know does a really good job in this in his profile. So this is my colleague, Joshua, also LFA graduate. The one thing that I'd recommend is that when you're looking at your LinkedIn, you have a lot more space than you do on your resume to get into this. So the key thing here is that a lot of people traditionally believe that your headline right here has to be what your current job is. It does not. It can be more general to, this is what I do, and these are the topics that I'm interested in. So you can literally use your headline right here to say, these are the few different climate topics that I'm interested in. So already you're using your headline as a place to say a few different things. Joshua posts a lot, talks a lot about being a freelancer in the climate space. So he also has this space where he talks literally like a sub headline to say, this is what I'm interested in talking about. But the best place to really illustrate all the different sectors that you're interested in is your about section. So one thing that Joshua does really well, and this is specific to freelancers, maybe not everyone can do this, but I think what he does really well here is that he outlines, if you are a specific type of company, he outlines the companies he wants to serve. I can help you with XYZ. And you can very similarly apply this to the framework of, you could say, if you're a climate company working in this sector, or this sector, I can do XYZ for you. So this framework, you can apply it in a few different ways, but your about section is the place where you can write a lot about the various sectors that you're interested in, the different skills that you have, and then your experience section is where you're going to go into the details. But you don't have this much space on your resume as you do on LinkedIn. So I encourage you to use that space there, definitely. And actually, that kind of touched on my next slide, is all about LinkedIn. I'll add in a slide here. I have a bunch of LinkedIn examples of LFA graduates and how they tailor their LinkedIn. So I'll add that slide in so you can see a few other examples. Now, of course, you can make the most perfect LinkedIn profile to ever exist, but if you are not using LinkedIn correctly, or if you're not on it actively, your LinkedIn profile isn't even going to get you anywhere. So I actually give an entire talk on how to use LinkedIn as a job search tool. And this goes outside of the job board on LinkedIn. I don't even touch on the job board. I talk about how do you network with people. And I've kind of listed out the big topics right here. Number one, follow people with large networks, people that post jobs regularly, people that are talking about climate. Follow those people, but also connect directly with them. The reason why I say this is because their posts and the posts that they interact with are going to appear on your newsfeed. That expands your network tenfold. You don't even have to be connected with people in order to see their posts. Maybe someone that has 10,000 followers on LinkedIn reposts an open job from someone that they're connected with. You're automatically seeing that even without being connected to that person. So the following button, actually, it can expand your newsfeed. And when I say newsfeed, I'm talking about literally what appears, in this home section. Perfect example. Adam Ellman is one person that I always recommend following because he is a sustainability leader who posts open jobs. I only follow him, so I see this. Now, the benefit right here, there's all these open jobs. Amazing, amazing, amazing. The cool thing here, though, is that he has 128 reactions and 12 comments. Now, I could also take a look at the comments and say, who else is looking at this? These are people that you can connect with. Maybe they're similar. Job seekers, this person right here. Awesome, Adam, thanks for sharing. I have sustainability roles in South Africa, and he's sharing that. If you are looking for region-specific information, posts like this can give you that, can show you that. So that's, again, some people even post other job openings on posts like this. So that's why following these leaders is going to supercharge your LinkedIn with a lot of other information. Definitely connect with people on LinkedIn every week. Connect with everyone here. If you haven't already, connect with me. And you're going to see the posts that I interact with and the posts that your colleagues here interact with as well. Additionally, flattery works. Something I learned super early on in my career is people love talking about themselves. So reach out to people, ask them about their journey, try to understand how they got to where they are. And again, approaching with that curiosity can help you bridge that gap of getting those initial conversations. And also leave meaningful comments. The way that you saw people interact with Adam's post, you can also share opportunities that you know of or share resources on your own LinkedIn. I'll blow through this since we already did this, but really make sure that you're honing in on your story. And I know that we're kind of up against time here. I can stay on for another 10 minutes. If anyone can, feel free to hop. This whole thing is recorded. But yeah, so there we go. Where did it go? Okay, yeah. So for networking, again, networking is so important. If you haven't taken advantage of it already within Terra, please do so. And there's also a bunch of there's Work on Climate Slack. There are a lot of other places. Another thing that I'll show you really quick, just so you can kind of see what my Slack looks like. If you're not already involved you all are in the Terra Slack, which is great, but please know that there are so many other Slack communities that you can join. These are all the Slack channels that I'm part of because I'm bonkers. You do not have to have this many Slack channels, but the good thing is that if you just join Work on Climate, you have Terra and Work on Climate, you've got two. So the cool thing is that they have all of these job channels in addition to what you have with Terra. So these are people that are sharing how they got a job. For those of you that are looking for freelance or business opportunities, there's an entire gigs channel. They also have geography specific channels for India, for Canada, for wherever you are. And then they even have role specific. So I'm showing this to really showcase that there are so many ways that you can talk to people, even outside of LinkedIn. And this is something that is absolutely within your control to say, I'm going to join these communities and I'm going to be have for you all. When you get to the phase of applying to jobs, make sure you're applying to a steady amount and really customizing your information and maximizing your network. That's why networking, I always say you should do this before you apply to jobs, because you might not even need to apply to a job if you network correctly. You might be able to network your way in, which is, a lot of people do that as well. Have a lot of resources for you. Open Door Climate is a place where people have literally opened their messages, their calendars to people that want to connect with people in climate. So this is a really good opportunity. And actually, Tara has Open Door Climate people directly in our network as well. Looks like that isn't working right now. But you can also go to app.terra.do and then click on community, and you can see a list of, you can search for people, you can connect with people that way. I know I talked a lot about LinkedIn, so I have a list of LinkedIn leaders for you right here. I recommend if there's one thing you're going to do today, go through this list and just click follow for every single person and observe what information comes your way on LinkedIn. And if anything isn't relevant, you can just unfollow them. We also have this massive resource list for fellows. You all should already have access to this. Let me just drop it in the chat if you don't already. This is a really big resource list that has everything and anything you need to know about your job search. There are skills assessments, if you're trying to figure out where do I go in climate, you have that here. But there's also the Terra mentorship program, which you should take advantage of. And then I have job boards. There's all sorts of job boards based on region, based on types of jobs, industry, things like that. There's also job boards for freelancers and consultants. And then there's a bunch of resume resources, as well as climate communities. For those of you that are wondering, I want to join a few more Slack channels, but I don't know which ones, they're all right here. And then I have all of the job fairies listed out. I like to call them job fairies because most of these folks are posting job openings or resharing them. So really great way to get connected. And then also there's a lot more here. And if you're not sure what to say when you reach out to people, I've written these informational interviewing documents, sending effective outreach messages. There's a lot right here for you. So please take a look at that if you are kind of figuring out what to do next. That being said, I will share more of this in Slack, but some career support that you will have after LFA is that we are actually, so I've been running a careers course for the past 5 months with Tara. We are currently in the process of reconfiguring how that is delivered to you. But after you graduate, you are going to have access to the resources and the modules that we've created. So there's 8 action-oriented modules that take you through everything that I've mentioned right now in just an hour, actually less than that. There's kind of like a longer process through which you can be guided through that. What is going to happen after this, you all graduate on Friday, starting on June 23rd, you will have the opportunity to get access to these modules and then also join weekly accountability calls to kind of go through the what you're doing on the end, like your own reflections, your own research, and those calls will be with me, where I'll be also walking you through different exercises, but also guiding you through it. If you need just like asynchronous mentorship or coaching calls, like that's kind of it's a group coaching atmosphere. So this will kick off on June 23rd. You will receive information from me beforehand on kind of how this all will work out. But there are a bunch of modules that help you assess your own skills, help you wayfind through the climate landscape, create your vision, create your story, and then actually activate your network to launch into a successful job search. There are add-on resources to that. There's the live calls are all going to be on Friday, starting June 23rd. And then I've also created a climate job search workbook that helps you stay consistent and actually set yourself up for success. And you'll get access to that workbook when you join that little program. And I'll share everything about how to join, when to join, all that stuff. You'll hear from me in Slack right afterwards. That course has been designed to help you walk away with all of these tangible deliverables. You're going to identify your non-negotiables. You'll have climate solution areas of interest. You'll build a strong resume. You'll do all of this stuff with the goal of getting you interview ready for climate jobs. I have a lot of things that I can share about, folks that have gone through this program. I think the best compliment that we got for this program was that it was 1,000 times better than any business school, undergrad, or university career program. I was like, well, that's really cool to hear. But if they're ever interested in, and these are all LFA graduates that have gone through this program. I have a number of people that have gotten jobs through this program, that have landed interviews through this program as well. So definitely super helpful. And if you are looking for coaching, this is actually the easiest way for you to get group coaching. And we only charged $1 for this program. For those of you that are wondering, I don't actually know if we're doing that anymore. Even it's either $1 or $0 at this point. So this is something, it's again, just like with LFA, you will get out what you put in. This program is also designed to really be asynchronous, but I'm hosting these live calls because people have asked for them. People have benefited from them. So I will follow up with everyone after this on, what's next, how to sign up for that, where to sign up, things like that. But I know we're 10 minutes over. If anyone has any questions, happy to stay on. But if you need to hop, no worries. That was a whirlwind.
This is really helpful, and looking forward to the career support program from 23rd onwards. In the interim, would you be open to a one-on-one to kind of bounce off some thoughts? Just quickly want to ask before leaving.
Sure. If folks want to stay on, you can. I also I just want to be mindful of time. And Butterish, I probably only have 2 minutes. So I don't know how deep I can go right now.
No, later on. I'm saying post this call.
Later. Yeah. You can schedule a one-on-one and I'll post all this afterwards as well.
Thank you. Cheers. Bye.
Great. Does anyone else have any questions?
Yeah, Radhika.
Mm-hmm.
I really like the way your process is structured. Thank you for that. Not too many career coaches have that well defined. I personally find the first step one of the most challenging ones.
Yes.
Identifying your non-negotiables. And that is something that somebody cannot do alone, because if you could do it alone, you would have done it by now. But also, have you found, can you go a tiny bit deeper into that? So I appreciate the form that you shared, but even looking at that, there's a subtlety that you need to go there. If you're not sure about what you want to do, it comes across in interviews, in everything that you do. So nailing this first step is very, very important.
Mm-hmm.
What have you found to be best practices in that?
Mm-hmm. Very good question. And I also agree with you. Identifying this stuff is so hard. I think that's the first blocker. People are like, I don't know what to do, so I can't do anything.
Yes.
I know it might sound, maybe this isn't as technical as you want to go, but my honest advice to you is to try. So my question to you too is, it always starts with, what have you tried so far? Or what have you explored so far? You know, you're in Learning for Action. You've learned all this stuff. You're part of this community. I can ask you right now, like, what climate topics interest you?
Are you putting me on the spot?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Let's say renewable energy.
Are you actually interested in renewable energy?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So what have you learned about renewable energy that excites you?
Right. So I really don't want to take everybody's time, but I'll give you an example on how it gets very complicated in my head very quickly. So shiny objects excite me, right?
Yes.
But shiny objects have consequences. So let's say, you know, renewable energy in Africa is very exciting, but that requires relocation at a certain stage in your life. There's other aspects. So what I'm getting at is this first step. I've done a few of these before, and I've jumped, literally taking my bags and going from one continent to another, or chasing an exciting consulting career, only to figure out the consequences a few years later. I don't want to do that anymore. But nor do I want to die with my song in my heart, right? So there's a happy balance between the two. And that's why this first step is the most difficult, in my opinion.
Yes.
So it's not just identifying what are you excited about. That process of what are you excited about, and then what are the consequences of that, and how do you do that step by step to come to at least a semi-muddy a picture of what you want to do when you grow up.
Yes. I think the most important thing that you just said was, I don't want to do that. You already have some idea of what you do not want to do, which is so important. I would almost encourage you to say, you can use that framework, but instead of saying, what do I want to do? Flip it. Fill out that entire worksheet and say, I don't want to do these things. I don't want to do that. Try that way.
Got it.
Try to actually, if you have more clarity on what you don't want to do, write it down. Write it down, identify all those things that you don't want, and then do a little bit of exploration to say, is there anything that is close to that doesn't, that's the opposite of this stuff? And then from there, maybe then take a little bit of time and then try to reflect and say, okay, what do I actually want?
Radhika, one last question. So
Mm-hmm.
have you done, since this is a very key step, have you done some search on if there are other frameworks like the one you shared, different, more comprehensive, more in-depth? I think that's a very valuable resource.
Yes. What I can tell you right now is that we have, in that resource list I shared, we have a few, I know it might sound kind of silly, but like we have some value and skill assessments, personality tests, honestly. We have some personality tests that that are like climate specific. We ask people to do those at the beginning of the careers course. And I have had so many people be like, it was mind blowing. You know, it's kind of, you know, we forget, like, personality tests are such a
like
simple thing.
Myers-Briggs and stuff like that. Myers-Briggs and that kind of stuff.
It goes a little bit beyond Myers-Briggs. Let me just share them in the chat right now. And Rafi, I can follow up with you on this too. But there is one that is actually called the Career Switch Tolerance Questionnaire. That's actually all the way at the end. But there's like a variety of skills assessments, and the Career Switch Tolerance Questionnaire is specific to climate. And it asks you to go through, am I actually willing to change or have some form of sacrifice while navigating this job search? And I think that could help you. It sounds like that's what you're weighing yourself is, with the things that I've done, I know I don't want to do those again, but what will it take for me to get to the next thing? That might help you with that. So definitely take a look at that. And Rafi, we can follow up. Like, I'm happy to
Awesome.
give you some more frameworks on this too.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Wonderful. Okay. Thank you everyone for staying 15 minutes over. I do have to run, but please reach out to me on Slack. You can find me if you have any other questions. I'll also post the recording and, everything else will be available to you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for staying long. See ya. Bye.